First, let me just get your reaction. It's the first opportunity we're getting to talk to you today as someone who has been chronicling and talking about Donald Trump's misdeeds for years. Just your reaction to the verdict today.
Well, today was the day justice caught up with Donald Trump. And I do think with a democracy as stressed as ours, we should take heart that, the system worked, that 12 ordinary Americans adjudicated the guilt or innocence of a former president of the United States. That is a remarkable thing, something that is not possible in most countries around the world. And so I think it's a good day for the system of justice. But, Chris, the other thing that leaps out at me is this was a victory for the justice system in New York. It was not a victory for the federal justice system. Yes. As you were pointing out earlier, Donald Trump was an unindicted co-conspirator number one in an indictment out of the Southern District of New York based on largely these facts. The Justice Department said Michael Cohen needed to go to jail for his role in that. It did not charge Donald Trump. In the cases, the Justice Department did charge Donald Trump. In Florida, in Washington, D.C., the federal judges, particularly on the Supreme Court, but also in Florida, have knowingly gone along with Donald Trump's efforts to deny justice by delaying it. It was the justice system in New York that has held him accountable. And, I think people in New York should take pride that their citizens were able to adjudicate the guilt or innocence of a former president of the United States. He has now, in New York, been adjudicated a sexual abuser. He has been adjudicated a business fraudster. He is now a convicted felon. And someone with that kind of record is patently unfit for office. And that's my quick takeaway on today.
I want to ask about the reaction of some other members of Congress, including the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. We were just discussing it, and I'll just read it into the record in case you haven't seen what he had to say, calling it a shameful day in American history. The Democrats cheered as they convicted the leader of the opposition party on ridiculous charges predicated on testimony of a disbarred convicted felon in a purely political exercise, not a legal one. It goes on and on. There has been a unanimous cry, essentially, from elected Republicans along those lines. What do you think about the Speaker of the House talking about the verdict in those terms?
Well, the only thing shameful about today is the actions of Speaker Johnson and so many of Trump's enablers that they would, for the benefit of this convicted felon, would tear down our justice system, would cause further discredit on the justice system. Mike Johnson knows better. This is just calculated desire to cling to power. And that truly is shameful. And there's just no two ways about it. Every time over the last 8 years when we have thought, OK, surely now Republicans of good sense will reject, step away, move away, condemn, shun Donald Trump, this incredibly immoral, unethical, and now criminal human being. But every time they show us who they truly are, and who they truly are is people whose word, whose oath, whose devotion to the Constitution means nothing compared to their desire for power. The Liz Cheneys, the Adam Kinzingers stand out in such sharp relief because there are just so few of them. But that is the shameful aspect of today, the wholesale rejection still by the Republican leadership of our justice system and of our democracy.
I want to ask you one more question on political terms. Last time I checked, you are, in fact, a politician, a practicing one. You're currently running to be a United States Senator. We were just having this discussion. I don't know you heard it, but basically it is striking to me a little bit of the asymmetry in tone, right? So you have Republicans, high and low, members of the House, members of the Senate, basically screaming that this is an outrage, that this is a travesty and a mockery. And you have Democrats, by and large, putting out statements saying it's good that no one's above the law. We respect the verdict. The campaign put out a statement, but not really playing the kind of hardball you might expect when you're running a campaign and suddenly in the middle of said campaign, your opponent is found guilty of 34 felonies. How do you think about the politics of this and how to talk about it in a way that doesn't essentially denigrate the solemnity of what happened in the rule of law, but also doesn't shy away from what happened in a political sense?
I think we have to do both. First of all, we have to, I think, acknowledge what history was made today, and it is solemn, and it is something that ought to take our breath away. And we want to affirm what they're attacking. What they're attacking is not just Joe Biden here. They're attacking the whole justice system. So we need to defend the justice system, but we also need to go after them with a vengeance for their shameful clinging to this convicted felon. Now, I think the message today may be more focused, as you say, on, hey, democracy worked. Thank God for that. But it also has to point out the fundamental unfitness, how once again we see this is a man that should never be near the levers of power again, and we should not hesitate in any way, shape, or form in pointing out to the country in the most powerful, sharp terms we can, this is a convicted felon. This is someone convicted of multiple felonies over hush money payments to a porn star. This is someone who is essentially convicted of crimes of moral turpitude. And this is just the first of three, with three more trials to come. So I think we need to lean in. And I'm in your school, Chris, when it comes to if we say this doesn't matter, it's not going to matter to people. I think it will matter to people. It won't matter to those that, Donald Trump says would support him if he shot somebody in the street. But that is not most Americans. I do not believe most Americans want a convicted felon as the president of the United States, and nor do they want someone who is so fundamentally indecent, unlawful, has such scorn for everything the country stands for.
Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you very much. Appreciate it.